Today, I want to get real and talk about what it's like living with a heart condition. Hi, I'm Layla. When I was born, I was diagnosed with Tetralogy of Fallot. I wanted to make this video because February is American Heart Month, and I think it's important to talk about these things because when I was growing up, I didn't really have a lot of resources. I didn't have a lot of people to look to. I felt very isolated, and that was really hard for me growing up. So I wanted to come on here and share my story for parents, when their children are dealing with this, for other people who are dealing with the same condition that I have, and also just for people who want to know. This is a condition where there's a lot of things that we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, and I think it's important to talk about those things. This isn't going to be super in-depth, however, it is going to be a little bit more scripted than a lot of my other videos on this channel. I do possibly plan on making more videos on this. Oh my god, there's a wasp! Anyway, sorry, that was really scary. I plan on making more videos like this in the future, hopefully, considering this is my experience, but I also am not a doctor. So don't take what I say as medical advice, please. I'm just wanting to share my story with you and my personal experiences. Tetralogy of Fallot is a condition that you're born with. It is caused by the presence of 4 abnormalities within the heart. Today, we're going to go over all 4 of those abnormalities because I think it's important to understand what exactly the condition is before I go into some of my personal experiences and how I've dealt with it. So firstly is the narrowing of the pulmonary valve between the heart and lungs, and this is called pulmonary stenosis. This means that some of the blood going through your heart doesn't end up actually going to the lungs to get oxygen. So this just means that you've got oxygen poor blood running through your system. Secondly is the presence of a hole between the bottom heart chambers, and this is called a ventricle septal defect. This is what that looks like because I think that's really hard to think about in your head. So this is when the hole causes oxygen-rich blood and the oxygen-poor blood to go ahead and mix together. That being said, the heart may work overtime to pump blood through, and so that may cause it to weaken over time. Third abnormality is a shifting of the body's main artery. So this is when the aorta is in the wrong spot. Normally, the aorta is located in the lower left chamber of the heart. However, when you have Tetralogy of Fallot, it is typically located directly above the hole that we had talked about previously. And it changes how blood flow through the lungs. Lastly is the thickening of the lower right chamber, and this is called ventricle hypertrophy. Once again, I'm not a doctor. So this is essentially just muscle buildup. Your heart is working so hard to pump blood. It basically is, she's so buff. However, after a prolonged period of this, it can be extremely dangerous, causing the heart to weaken and then potentially even fail. So now that we kind of have the basic parts of Tetralogy of Fallot, let's go ahead and talk about some of my story and my experience. I had surgery at 8 months old to correct some of these defects. I had my surgery at Riley Hospital for Children in Indianapolis, Indiana, and they have always taken phenomenal care of me throughout my entire life. I have been fortunate enough to only ever have one surgery. However, many other children don't get that luxury. So along with the main 4 abnormalities that's present with Tetralogy of Fallot, I also had a vascular ring, and basically this is when your main artery decides to go crazy. And the way that it grew and developed, it wrapped itself around the windpipe, which this was also corrected during my surgery. When I had my surgery, they fixed 2 out of the 4 qualifications. I still currently have the first qualification, which is the narrowing of the pulmonary valve, and the 4th, which is the thickening of the lower right chamber. So those 2 things still affect me throughout my daily life. For example, to start when I was little, when I was a baby, I was walking and crawling very later than most of the other kids. I was hardly gaining weight. I was pretty behind for other children my age. But then after having my surgery, I was able to kind of grow a little bit more normally, gain weight, walk, crawl, talk clearly. So then kind of when I got a little bit older, I was very frequent in passing out. Typically, I would pass out when I got too hot. That was always pretty much the number one cause of why that would happen. And I had to teach myself growing up that it was okay to take breaks and that I wasn't gonna be like other kids. And that was something that I really, really struggled with, to know that I was different from other kids. However, that did not stop me from participating in a multitude of activities throughout my childhood. Growing up, I really do feel like I did a lot, but there were still certain things that I was not allowed to do. For example, when I was young, I wanted to play softball so bad. Like, I really, really wanted to play softball. But my mom had to make that decision that it wasn't safe for me to do so. She had to think about my health and put that first, because I couldn't be out in the heat like that during the summer. I would have passed out on the field. When I got a little bit older in elementary school, I joined the girls' intramural basketball team. And I'm going to be so for real, I was straight up terrible. I was so bad at it. Like, I was so bad at it. And I was bad at it because I physically couldn't keep up with the other girls. Like, they were running back and forth along the court, and I couldn't do it. My mom would say that, they'd be running and I'd be like 5 feet behind them. And situations like those growing up were so hard. All I wanted to know was, why wasn't I normal? Why couldn't I be like other kids? However, my mom, when I was young, did let me join dance, and I then went on to dance for the next 13 years of my life. It did keep me active, and it was a place where I was able to feel like other kids, and more specifically, I was able to feel like other girls. Performance was such an outlet for me as well. If I couldn't do anything else, then at least I could dance. However, the dance recitals were also really hard. I remember, going downstairs to our dressing rooms and having to pop ibuprofen because my chest hurt, or just laying on the ground and feeling my heart pound through my head. This is what I wanted to do. I loved dancing, and performance really was such an outlet for me. When I got older in high school, I went on to join the theater department, which definitely is not as physically straining. But those lights are bright, okay? They get hot. But the hardest thing throughout all of this was definitely my dizzy spells. They made things the worst. So dizzy spells were very frequent for me growing up, and they even still happen now that I'm older. This would happen for a variety of reasons, but the main one was I got too hot. When I was younger and I would pass out and get too hot, my lips would turn blue, and then I would just pass out flat on the ground, right then and there. And for my mom or for anybody who was watching me, that's really scary. No one wants to see their kid flat on the ground. However, with some cold air and some water, I very quickly could go back to normal. And the stories of me passing out, seriously, are probably endless. I could go on for hours about all of the times I've passed out and all of the different places. I've passed out at school, at home, at parades, at concerts, at, you name it, I have probably passed out there. It's just one of those things with this condition that I deal with, and I've kind of gotten used to over the years, but it doesn't really make my life any less hard. For example, I went to the Taylor Swift concert and thought I was going to, pass out right outside the stadium. But there were some really lovely girls there who took really great care of me and gave me water to help me get back on my feet so we could get in the stadium, and I was really fortunate for those girls who were there. But it's just situations like that where you're having such a great time and suddenly it can turn really, really scary. So to kind of conclude this video, I don't feel as though this condition makes me weak. Knowing where I'm at now, I feel strong and I feel courageous and tough. I'm now in my second year of college at Ball State University studying media promotion and management, and I live a normal college life. I go out to tailgates, we go out to dinner, we just walk around when we're bored. I get to do all of those things that normal college kids do. And I like to say that, yeah, while my condition is a part of me, my condition is not who I am. February is American Heart Month, and I want to thank all of our cardiologists for doing everything that they can to keep us safe. Your work does not go unnoticed, and in situations like mine and so many other kids, our lives are further changed for the better because of all of the work that you do. Or if you, your child, or someone you know has Tetralogy of Fallot and you have questions, please reach out to me. I love to share my experience and what I've been through. There were a lot of stories in this video that I did not share. No question is a stupid one, especially when there's a lot of things about Tetralogy of Fallot that are still unknown. For example, it's one of those things where we don't really know how a child ends up with it. However, that being said, I am just a girl. This is something I deal with and I feel comfortable sharing my experience. However, I would recommend talking with a cardiologist if you have actual concerns. Thank you so much for listening to me talk about my experience with Tetralogy of Fallot. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks so much. More videos to come. Bye!